Welcome, Dr. Epic here. And what we're going to talk about in this lecture is dictionaries, chimpanzees, magic numbers, the secret of human happiness, and subjective reality. There's the outline right up above me. Write it down and let's go ahead and get started, because we are going to talk about sociocultural anthropology, also known as cultural anthropology. Sociocultural anthropology studies the kind of ineffable connections that two different people have. It's the ineffable connections that hold together these human groups, hold together these networked human societies. Sociocultural anthropology studies human culture, especially the ways, especially the range and variation of different human cultures, and how human culture operates, within a society, how it shapes decision-making, how it serves the need of the people who actually make use of it. Sociocultural anthropology studies culture, which immediately begs another question. What exactly do you mean when you say culture? What is culture? So, all right, let's turn to the dictionary. There's a dictionary right there. What does the Merriam-Webster dictionary say culture is? There's the first definition right up above me. Culture is the integrated pattern of human knowledge, belief, and behavior that depends upon the capacity for learning and transmitting knowledge to succeeding generations. For our purposes, we're going to modify that a little bit, and we're going to say that culture, broadly defined, is any learned shared behavior. Such behavior is learned, it is not instinctual, which is what differs culture from, say, insect societies, with wasps and ants and termites and bees. The behavior is all hardwired. It's electrochemically hardwired. Bees just know what to do. Bees don't go to bee school or anything. But you do find learned shared behaviors in large vertebrates, especially large mammals. Culture is not limited to humans. When a mother cat teaches her kitten to hunt in a certain way, that is learned shared behavior. That is a type of culture. And you find this a lot among big mammals, that there is such a thing as mammalian social learning, and there is quite a bit of research on this. This is types of non-human cultures. Now, they're not very complex. It just basically consists of a range of behaviors. And anyone who's had a large number of pets will immediately know this, that one dog will figure out how to say, open a cabinet, and immediately teach all your other dogs how to do it. And then they're opening cabinets at midnight. That's what dogs do. That is a type of culture. It's learned shared behavior. The non-human animal with the most complex learned shared behaviors, the most complex cultures, are chimpanzees. Chimpanzees quite definitely have culture. They have these sets of learned shared behaviors, and these have been mapped out. I mean, you can look at the chart and look at these, you can look up the journal and the books if you want. The research has been done to show that you have one group of chimpanzees will sort of learn termite fishing, and they'll get a lot of their protein through termite fishing. Another group of chimpanzees will go into cracking open nuts with stones. A third group of chimpanzees will specialize in hunting colobus monkeys. All of these are learned shared behaviors. The adult chimpanzees teach it to the young chimpanzees, so that each of these chimpanzee groups develop very idiosyncratic cultures, and they are quite different from their neighbors. And if you look at that chart to the left, it shows how different groups of chimpanzees engage in different sets of learned and shared behaviors. There's even one group of chimpanzees that specialized in warfare on other surrounding groups of chimpanzees. Very interesting. So they quite definitely do have culture. Now, it doesn't compare to what humans have. What humans have with culture is like a quantum level more complex than chimpanzees. We don't inhabit groups. And a lot of people say this, that humans are herd animals or pack animals. We're not anything like that. Humans inhabit networked societies. We have friends, we have families, we do things with them. We have individuals are connected with each other in these sort of networks of friendship, networks of family, networks of kinship. And these networks are held together by culture, and culture is transmitted along these networks. However, there is a finite size of the human social network, and this is called Dunbar's number, worked out by Robin Dunbar. That's him, like right up above there, in a series of articles in the 2000s and in the 2010s. Robert Dunbar basically made this very convincing argument that there is a finite size to the human social network, and that size is basically between 100 and 150. We only know about 100 or 150 people. But within that group, there is an internal hierarchy. We don't treat all people the same. And Robin Dunbar basically examined this and said that you have basically 3 tiers of people that you know. You have close friends and family. You have about 15 of these individuals. You have friends, and you have about 35 of these individuals. And then there's just acquaintances, people that you just kind of know. You may not know their partner's name, you may not know their parents, but you know them, all right? This is Dunbar's number, and this is constant across all known human societies. So it strongly argues, and Dunbar made this argument, that this is neurochemically limited, that we only have so many friendship slots in our brains, and not all these slots are the same. We have very close friends. These are people who get like nice Christmas presents. We have friends. These are people who get a small Christmas present or maybe a bottle of wine. And then we have acquaintances. For Christmas, those people get cards. All right? And one of the things that Dunbar noted is that none of these positions are set. And we, in fact, can move people in and out of our social network. And we generally do so by moving them down the range, down the internal hierarchy. We have someone who was a very close friend, but then they'll just become a good friend. And then over time, they're an acquaintance. And then eventually, whatever happened to Fred? I don't know, But the opposite works as well. We will meet someone, they'll be in our social network. They're we really like them. So we pull them out of the acquaintance slot and we slot them into the friend slot. But sometimes we have to take somebody out to do that. And then eventually, if we really like them, we'll move them up into the really close friend category. So there is a limit to the size of the human social network. Now, inside these networks, they affect behavior, they affect worldview, they affect decision-making. Individuals inside these social networks engage in cooperative behavior at all levels, from subsistence gathering, from economic pursuits, from making money, from finding food, from raising and educating young, to obtaining food, shelter, and clothing. People within these social networks bury their dead, they tell their stories, they shape their realities. They decide what the rules are, they reward the people who obey the rules, they punish the people who do not. They decide on leaders, they determine status. And when a social network becomes too large, it will sometimes fission into 2 separate networks when the size is reached, which is Dunbar's number. Then they marry off into neighboring groups, depending on the local marriage custom. But regardless, Dunbar's number appears to hold constant, all the way from what we understand of Paleolithic hunter-gatherers to the industrialized 21st century West. Your social network influences your patterns of consumption. They influence your politics. If you hang around a bunch of conservatives, you're going to start picking up conservative ideas. If you hang around a bunch of liberals, you're going to pick up liberal ideas. If you hang around a bunch of people who don't give 2 figs about politics, after a while, you too will not give 2 figs about politics. And people within your social network will exert pressure, whether they mean to or not. You're going to hang out with a group of people. You're going to start unconsciously imitating dress. You're going to unconsciously imitate behavior. And this is, you're going to unconsciously imitate accents. This is like somebody will move to Texas and after 10 years, they pick up a Texas accent. It's very, very common. So these human social networks influence behavior. They influence culture. They shape human perception. And they kind of determine how happy you are. And here you go. I'm about to give you the secret of human happiness. Wealth? No, it's not wealth. Success? No. Status? No, not at all. And this research does not come from anthropology. This comes from neuropsychology. But basically, they took the same approach that anthropologists have taken for years, which is they mapped out networks of social relationships. And they basically figured out self-reported happiness correlates strongly with how much time you spend with people who are inside your social network. You can be very, very poor. You can have a very low status occupation. But if you spend a lot of time with close friends and family, you're going to be happy like that guy. You're going to be very happy. Okay? And they replicated the study over a number of years, and the warmth of the circle and the warmth of the object you can see in the mapped network to the left basically correlates to self-reported happiness. And one of the things they determined is that the more time you spend with close friends and family, the happier you are, the more content you are, the less depressed you are. We are not meant to be, alone. We're not meant to be islands. We're meant to engage in social interactions with other people. So, sometimes if you're feeling blue, if you're feeling lonely, probably you're just not spending enough time with people. And in fact, the blue dots, you can see the blue dots on both of these mapped social networks. These are people who self-reported very low levels of happiness. And you can see they're on the outskirts of their social network. They're not spending a lot of time with friends and family. Secret to human happiness: go out with your friends. Doctor's orders. Spend time with your friends. Spend time with your family. Go out and have fun with your friends. It makes you psychologically healthier. Now, you don't have to go out and party like you're 24. I'm just saying you spend time with family. It makes you psychologically healthier. The science is very solid on this. And what holds these human social networks together is culture. And culture is transmitted through these networked connections. Culture dictates behavior, dress, family structure, morals, mores, opinions, and even more. Human culture is a set of learned shared behaviors that binds together human social networks. However, culture also helps shape and create a subjective reality. And this is how humans relate to an objective universe that we can never fully understand. In fact, we can only ever partially understand the world around us. So what culture does is culture creates a sort of subjective reality that we layer on top of a hard, uncaring universe that allows us to interact with it, that allows us to perceive it. And this is something I'm really going to stress during the course of this module, and the next one, actually. Humans do not react to the world as it objectively exists. Humans react to the world as they subjectively perceive it to be. As humans, we don't respond to our surroundings as they actually are. We respond to the world that we imperfectly perceive. Humans live in a subjective reality, and your culture determines the shape that subjective reality will take. So what is a subjective reality? A subjective reality is the worldview, kind of the cosmology of any given population. And it may or may not have any relationship to objective reality. If everyone is convinced there is a canyon running down the middle of the street, they're going to act as if there is a canyon running down the middle of the street. Now, this is three-dimensional street art. This is chalk that somebody's painted on a street. But if you have enough people and they are really committed to this idea that there is a canyon running down the street, if they have to get from one side of the street to the other, they're going to walk all the way around what they perceive to be a huge canyon in the middle of the street. And frankly, if you point out that this is just an illusion, that there is no canyon in the middle of the street, they won't believe you, and in fact will get quite upset with you, because you're not just challenging, this canyon. You are to some extent challenging their view of reality. You're challenging their culture. And nobody really knows why the human brain works like this. But the current theory has to do with the way that the human brain evolved a million years ago. That the human brain appears to have evolved not to better navigate and manipulate the physical world, but to better manipulate and shape the social environment, the subjective world. The theory goes that individuals with larger brains, more complex neural structures, or capable of manipulating the social network around them. They had larger access. Their Dunbar's number was larger. They were able to manipulate the world around them. They lived longer. They lived healthier. They prospered, and thus reproduced more often and passed their big, complex social brains onto their offspring. And you do this for 500,000 years, and you get this really large human brain, the human brain that causes problems with childbirth because our heads are too big. Evolutionarily, human brains may have evolved not to perceive and shape objective reality, but to manipulate a shared subjective reality. And this is why we don't observe the world the way it really is. We observe the world that culture has told us it is. So humans see an object. We look at something, boom. And we instantly interpret it through our learned shared behavior that we've acquired largely unconsciously through culture. Culture acts as a perceptual lens. We see an object. We perceive this object. And then culture is a lens, and that culture imposes meaning upon the object. Culture acts as a kind of perceptual lens, translating what an object means so that we can address it. We can address it and deal with it socially. As humans, we impose meaning on an objective world. We impose meaning on our objective surroundings to create a social environment. And culture is the tool used to do this. And now I'm going to play a trick on you. What is that thing right up above me? Right above my little yellow box? If you said that's a figure of a person, you're wrong. If you said that's something that goes on a men's room door, you're wrong. That is lines and shapes. That's all it is. Objectively, it's just lines and shapes. But we see that, and culture immediately translates this for us. It's done so quickly that we rarely perceive it. We are attempting to manipulate that thing socially. And we're really going to get into the implications of this and how this actually makes and how this works in real life in the next section. And I will see you there when we address subjective social reality.